It is my great honor to invite to the stage Congressman Rick Larsen. Congressman Larsen is well known in this room. He himself is a recipient of the award that he is going to give tonight for congressional leadership. Congressman Larsen has been a leader in the trade community, in the security community, and in a body that has workhorses and show horses. He is most definitely a workhorse. So please join me in welcoming Congressman Larsen.
That joke John told is appropriate because that guy was me. Okay, not really, it wasn't. I want to thank you all for inviting me to be here tonight, and I do want to congratulate Jackie Walorski from Indiana on the award. Is Kevin here tonight to introduce? I'll be here soon. Of course, you'll hear from Suzan, Senator Grassley, congratulations, and Max Baucus. Mike and Bert Robbins, say hello. All right, yeah, sure, yeah, they're good guys. There's actually Montanans who don't live in Montana. They live in my district, and they are great fans of Senator Baucus still. So when Ken invited me to present this award to Suzan tonight, I was really surprised because she hates my guts. I'm kidding. Not true. Not true. More surprised because this award is for as brief a time as she's been in Congress relative to me. I've been in 18 years. She's been in 8 or 6, 7. That's right. We're halfway through. This award still is long overdue for Suzan DelBene. As a member of Congress and a member of the House Ways and Means Committee, she's been a champion for very smart trade policies, for economic engagement with the world, and for American jobs. Even before she started work in Congress in 2012, she understood the importance of trade to our state of Washington State. We are the most trade-dependent state in the country, where 40% of the jobs in our state depend directly, not indirectly, directly on trade. So she knows the impact that trade has on jobs. She knows the impact that trade has on the local economy. And many of these folks are farmers, they're small business owners, they're entrepreneurs who rely on their elected representatives to promote sound and fair trade policies, to help open new markets, and to help spur innovation and workforce competitiveness. Despite that, and I enjoyed hearing the stories from Senator Grassley and Senator Baucus about how trade is such an easy vote in Iowa and Montana because they're so dependent on trade. For those who know me, for those who know Suzan, for those who know our state, despite being such a trade-dependent state, we still sometimes have a difficulty not communicating how trade-dependent we are, but in getting people to agree that it's a good thing. And Suzan has done a pretty good job of navigating that by taking great advice from stalwarts like me. So during the TPP debate, I was the only, and I'm very proud to say this, the only member of Congress to actually hold town halls on TPP. And I'm not, you applaud now. I held 5 town halls, one in each of my counties, and collectively over 1,000 people showed up to those town halls. And yet I survived. I think 3 people spoke out in favor of TPP at these town halls. And in one in Bellingham, Washington, that Suzan knows well, there was a practical revolt halfway through the town hall when someone got up and said, "Larsen, you're a fake, you're only doing this to check a box, and we're all gonna leave this room right now. We're gonna march down the streets of Bellingham, and we're gonna tear the house down," and so on. And everyone stood up and cheered this guy, and I let it die down, and I sat there and I said, "So no one's left, you're all still here, is that right?" So And the reason I tell this story is because Suzan took my advice and didn't hold one town hall on TPP. It's a difficult period for supporters of trade, with tariffs hurting American consumers, and we see that in our state, and companies, and we see that in our state. It's more important than ever for members of Congress to speak out. And as a leader of the new Democrat coalition, Suzan approves the United States is still committed to setting the rules of the road on trade. She's introduced legislation that would offer assistance to American workers who may lose their jobs because of the tariffs on American goods that have been put in place by some of our largest trading partners in retaliation. She's worked to educate other members of Congress about the importance of digital trade. More than 1 million small businesses harness the power of the internet and e-commerce to reach new customers around the world, and Suzan has an expertise on that, matched by very few, if anyone, in the House of Representatives. She's working to lift restrictive digital trade barriers and burdensome processes at the borders that are impeding U.S. exporters and threatening U.S. businesses and workers. And she's pushed on every administration, the two that she's worked with, towards trade agreements that benefit workers, farmers, and businesses of her 1st Congressional District, many of whom I used to represent before redistricting, and believe me, they're very happy that Suzan's in charge now. But given her leadership on and expertise on trade as well, I'm pretty sure that Lighthizer has her on his speed dial, not the other way around. So I'm honored to present my friend and my colleague with this leadership award tonight. I want to present Suzan DelBene in recognition of the important work she's doing on behalf of Washington State's businesses and workers. Congratulations, Suzan.
I just want you to know that Rick said he was going to try that joke at the beginning about how I hate his guts, and I said, that sounds like a dud. And so you all verified that for me, so thank you, Rick. Our districts are right next door to each other, and when we went through redistricting, it is true, I ended up with about a third of Rick's former district. And so he has just been a credible ally and help once I became a new member of Congress on many issues. And so it's really been an honor to work with him. And we spent a lot of time together since our districts are so close. I also want to thank and congratulate my colleague, Jackie Walorski, for her win, her award. And I know we'll hear more from her soon. And obviously Senator Grassley for all of his work on trade. I'm really honored to be here tonight and to receive this award. In fact, a couple years ago when I was here, I got to introduce Rick and give him his award. So we've reversed roles. And back then, everyone was full of hope that a small group of officials in the administration were going to band together to stand up for trade and save us from tariffs. But I don't think that worked out. We have Section 232 tariffs on steel and aluminum, Section 301 tariffs on hundreds of billions of goods from China, Section 201 tariffs on washing machines, and we barely escaped tariffs on Mexico linked to immigration. So at this point, it's getting hard to keep track of all these numbers. But seriously, I'm worried about our current situation. And since we're in the Ronald Reagan building, we should remember what he said after the Canadian elections in 1988. He said, "Our peaceful trading partners are not our enemies. They are our allies. The expansion of the international economy, yes. The expansion of the international economy is not a foreign invasion. It is an American triumph, one we worked hard to achieve," end quote. So this is not a partisan sentiment. His predecessors and successors, both Democrats and Republicans, have shared this idea and embraced America's unique role in the world. So while the current administration has different views, there are many in Congress who've been willing to step up. I mean, it's no mistake that earlier this year, Speaker Pelosi led the largest congressional delegation to the Munich Security Conference since the conference's inception in 1963. In April, I joined the speaker on a visit to the UK and Ireland and was just in Brussels last month. So it's important to remember that when we make these trips and we engage with our trading partners, it's not just to defend our ideals, but it's because the decisions we make today have long-term economic consequences. The European Union has concluded trade agreements with Canada, Vietnam, Japan, the Mercosur countries, and Singapore. They're also working on agreements with Australia and New Zealand. Additionally, the other TPP countries have moved forward with CPTPP, and just last week, African leaders launched a continental free trade zone that creates $1.3 trillion economic bloc. And then, of course, there's China. Through initiatives like the Regional Comprehensive Economic Partnership or the One Belt, One Road initiative and the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, China is aggressively working to shape the global trading system in its own image. And our competitors aren't standing still, so if we remain on our current path, we're going to see trade diversion will become a serious concern, and it could impact the competitiveness of U.S. exporters in key markets for decades. And as Rick mentioned, as a member from Washington State, the most trade-dependent state, I'm especially concerned about the impact it has on our state, our economy, and that loss of market share. So the natural question is how we address these challenges, especially at a time when there's an increasing number of people who are skeptical of trade and see an economy they feel is not working for them. This is not a new phenomenon. During the Great Depression, FDR accepted the nomination for president at the Democratic National Convention and made a passionate case for the benefits of trade. 2 years later, he successfully pushed for the passage of the Reciprocal Trade Agreements Act, which gave the president the authority to negotiate bilateral tariff reductions. And 75 years ago this month, he led the establishment of a new global monetary system and created the World Bank and IMF at the Bretton Woods Conference. But none of these achievements would have mattered without the New Deal, which provided economic relief for American workers and farmers and created jobs for the unemployed. And so while we aren't in the middle of a recession, our economy is going through a rapid period of change. I truly believe that to get the strong mandate that's needed to pursue an ambitious trade agenda, we need to prove to American workers, farmers, and families that we're committed to investing in them both today and in the future. We must demonstrate that opening new markets abroad doesn't mean ignoring our citizens at home. That means raising the minimum wage, ensuring everyone has access to affordable health care, investing in our education system, and rebuilding our crumbling infrastructure. It also means working with the private sector to ensure that companies are investing more in their workers to better prepare them for the jobs of tomorrow and give them the financial security that they deserve. Again, in my home state, where 40% of all jobs are tied to trade, trade is still a controversial issue, as Rick mentioned. Workers and their families need to feel that they're benefiting from company success. So if we take these steps at home, we will be in a much better position to build the support necessary to pass new trade agreements that we need to compete in the world's largest and fastest growing markets. Finally, I know you'd be all disappointed as the co-founder of the Digital Trade Caucus if I didn't mention digital trade. Secretly, I'm working very hard. There's a bingo game going on over here, and I think I've tackled like all the words on there, except de minimis. I haven't said de minimis yet. I'm pleased that the 76 countries agreed to start e-commerce negotiations at the WTO. However, to truly be a leader on these issues, we need to do more right here at home. That means passing a consumer privacy bill, like the one I introduced earlier this year, so that GDPR doesn't become the de facto standard where we are not setting standards, but we are letting others set standards for us. It also means investing more money in emerging technologies like 5G. Tariffs and export restrictions alone won't do anything to stop the spread of Huawei 5G networks if America does not have an alternative. We need to develop a high-quality 5G network and work with other like-minded countries to build a secure global digital infrastructure. After all, high-standard digital trade agreements and privacy laws aren't effective if our data flows through compromised networks. So now I'm sorry I didn't discuss the 232 or 301 exemption process, but I'll let my friend Jackie Walorski take the lead on that. By now, the mere mention of her name puts Secretary Ross and Ambassador Lighthizer on high alert. I've been there, I know it's true. I'd like to thank you all again for this award. It's truly an honor, and I look forward to working with you as we all work to get our trade agenda on track and build a strong future. Thank you so much.